Hello everyone, my name is Erich and welcome to this special episode where I want to thank everyone for 100 subscribers. This is incredible. We have reached 100 a couple of days back, well, probably a week back. I just wanted to wait a little bit to make sure that it was true. Basically, I was pinching my own arm and I wasn't sure that 100 would actually stick. Sometimes, people will subscribe and they unsubscribe within a few days, so I just waited. And now it seems to be where we're at. And it's wonderful. And I'm really, really happy about having reached that far. And mostly it's thanks to the fact that I started doing more advertising, and it's thanks for you guys who want to see my content. And I'm hoping that there will be way more in the future, of course. Here in the background, we now have the continuation and actually me finalizing the playthrough of, Doom Troopers for the Super Nintendo. And the first part of this game I recorded a while back, and the second part I think it was like yesterday or 2 days ago. So I've been thinking about what I was going to say during this playthrough, and now when I'm here, I have no idea. Still, I'm so grateful for everybody who has subscribed. At least that's what I want to have said. And I don't know what to say more, except for it's damn cool that there are that many people out there who want to see me play games and be a city bugger and all that. So what I'm going to do now is actually just continue talking about something that is quite dear to me, and that is actually, well, not this game, but what this game is based on, which is, for some people who actually know role-playing games, they might have heard about it, because I don't know if it's like 2 years ago, or if it's more, or maybe it's just 1 year ago, a German role-playing company called Modifius released this the role-playing game in its third edition. And honestly, I've actually read it, and I was super happy about the results. It was really good. The results they created was actually way better than the original could probably ever be, because it suffered from power creep and other things that were common in the 90s. So what is Mutant Chronicles then? And well, simply put, it's kind of like Warhammer in a way. It's the far, far future where there's only war, kinda, sorta, but not really. They have big shoulder pads, and there's a lot of fighting and shooting and guns and things going boom. So the background story, I actually like the background story, but I also love the background story for Warhammer 40k. So I love the sci-fi games. This one it's supposed to be diesel punk. Because what's happened is that way back when things were bad for humanity, everything has gone to shit on Earth, and there are these mega corporations who have taken over the states, basically. There's no regular states, but people identify with the company they work for. And they have trillions upon trillions of dollars, euros, yen, whichever currency you wish to identify with or use. So what do? Well, they start migrating out of the horror that is the new Earth to first Luna, which is the moon, Luna, and then further on into the solar system. And there's quite a bit of problems because they can't bring everybody from Earth to Luna and so forth. But it's not really that well handled in the original source books. It's actually handled way better in the 3rd edition. Really. They even made a full campaign about it, which came out at the end of the 2nd edition when they were doing Warzone and the Doom Trooper collectible card game and things like that. So basically, humanity has expanded into the solar system, and there are some main factions that are good to remember, and they are 4 at the beginning. There's a 5th and 3rd edition that were present at this time, but not that active, so I'm not going to talk about them that much. The first one, and the largest one, is the Capital Corporation, which is basically the Americas. And they still have the American Dream style thing, but they call it the Capitolian Dreams. Then there's the Bauhaus group of people, which is basically Central and Eastern Europe. A little bit of Russian flavor, but mostly German and Italian, I would say. Maybe a little bit of Spanish too, and some French. They have a nobility that controls the corporation, while Capital is more of a democracy style thing. Then there's the Mishima Corporation, which is like neo-samurai style. They actually have like samurai armor and stuff like that. And finally is the Imperial Corporation, which is it was a conglomerate of minor companies that joined together into one megacorp, and they are basically the British Empire mixed with a little bit of Scandinavians and other groups, former empire countries, more or less. So those are the big people, the big bads. I was about to say they're not the big bads, but they are the big corporations. There are smaller corporations later on, but in the beginning there's only these people because they had the money to bring humanity out into the solar system. So there's of course going to be war and everything, and what happens is that the Imperial Corporation starts to explore further out into the solar system, and this was way back when Pluto was still a planet, and there were still these theories about the 10th planet and everything around in the Oort cloud. So what happens is they find this planet X and they call it Nero, and they mount an expedition to both Pluto and Nero, and they release something called the Darkness. The Darkness is basically chaos, honestly. When they break the first seal of repulsion, the first apostle, so the Darkness is basically the Dark Soul. The Dark Soul is an alien entity, or consciousness perhaps. It's hard to say exactly what it is. And it has 5 generals, basically. There's more explanation to it in the 3rd edition, and I don't want to spoil that because it's quite interesting, so if you want to know more, you should actually check that out. But the first general to come out of the darkness from the Dark Soul is actually Elian, the Mistress of the Void, and she brings out the heretics, those traitors to humanity that are going to help the darkness get a foothold with humanity. After her comes I think it was Algoroth, the Lord of Technology, and with his release, technology starts to fail. All that super advanced space technology that humanity has gotten over hundreds and hundreds of years starts to fail and break down. And that's where the diesel punk part of the setting comes into play, because the technology is gone. They are basically back in the kind of like 1940s to 1970s style of technology, which makes it really kind of fun. It's like occult Dick Tracy stories. And after that, the other three apostles show up, and they are, let's see now if I can remember everyone. It's Semi, or whichever way it's pronounced, which is the Lord of Lies. And I'm going to meet him quite soon here in the game, I think, too. It's Semi, and then Mauvige, the Lord of Madness, and Demnogonis, the Lord of Pestilence. And these creatures start to wreak havoc on humanity with they start to, let's put it like this, the dead start to rise, cats and dogs living together, it's crazy. And in this dark period, I can't remember how long it was, three brothers emerged from the jungles on Venus, which was a popular trope back then, a sci-fi trope, that Venus was a tropical planet with jungles and stuff. Kind of like the Predator style jungle scenes. That's basically how I imagined it as a kid. And from the jungle, which is the planet is actually home to the Bauhaus Corporation. So three brothers come out of the jungle, and they are called the Durand brothers. And they're simply called the brothers in the beginning. They come with a religious message on how to stop the darkness and how to give humanity a chance against the evil that assails it right now. The brothers are not very well liked because, well, the corporations don't like any competition, basically. Understandable. I mean, they have their power of influence, and here comes some other guys, and they are messing up the equilibrium and all the money that they have. But the brothers turn out to have found a way to unleash the psychic powers within humanity, and that's what actually makes them able to rally humanity in the darkest hours to fight against the darkness, which they do in what they call the Venusian Crusade, where the first cardinal, and I think his name was Nathaniel Durand, actually faces off against this the personification of Algoroth, which is basically facing off against a freaking god. So he was playing God of War for reals. Let's put it like that. So he faces off against Algoroth, and he manages to I think he manages to banish him from the mortal realm, even though it more or less costs him his life. So Nathaniel dies from his wounds that he suffers on Venus against Algoroth, and the Brotherhood is basically, well, the brothers change their name to the Brotherhood, and they become like the established Catholic-style church. They aren't really a church, but at the same time they are. It's a little bit hard to say exactly how they are, but they get an enormous influence due to the fact that they saved humanity. So fast forward about 1,000 years. AI has been prohibited, and there's still wars, and the darkness is starting to creep back into the solar system. 100 years ago, before the game takes place, there was a big crash, stock market crash, and a new mega corporation actually emerged, and they are called Cybertronic, the first corporation to actually be able to use high technology that is not affected by the darkness or any kind of corrupting powers. They can build cybernetics, they have the internet more or less, and they have androids. They can build artificial intelligence. The Brotherhood, of course, are not happy about that. Understandable, because they prohibited any kind of intelligent machines. And of course they don't like being foiled. They have kind of like a monopoly on how you can withstand the darkness, so they are a little bit pissed off about that. So that's basically the story behind the game, how it starts and everything. And then the darkness has come back, and there are loads of necromutants and undead legionnaires and other demonic abominations. And they are formed into what is called the Dark Legion, commanded by the Dark Soul and helped along by the Apostles. And here you go, guys. I'm meeting Semi, the Lord of Lies. And I don't remember why, but he is usually shown as a corpulent, greedy man. The highest echelons within the Dark Legion are the Nepharites. And the Nepharites are just described as demonic creatures. They kind of look like demons from fairy tales, but they have 3 horns. One on the top of the head and one on each side of the head. Some of them are pink, some of them are grayish, some of them are blue, but they usually have this pinkish skin color, more or less, and they're big, and they command, in the absence of the Apostles, they command the legions. Of course, this game was originally, it was action, hero-y adventures. I usually went with a little bit more like detective style gaming. So it wasn't just run over here, kill a lot of legionnaires. It was more like there's corruption, there's intrigue and stuff like that. And they captured that in the 3rd iteration of the game now, which makes me really happy. It still doesn't really include my favorite characters yet. They have talked about adding them later on, and they've just released like a living campaign, which I don't like that much yet, but it's only been out for like 2 weeks, and it easily, because it's like this, the campaign is not done yet, but it has really a lot of potential. It reminds me a little bit about an older version of the game. Before this game came out, there was another game called Mutant Space, which was a continuation where they mashed together 2 older games called Mutant and another one called Cult. And Cult, I think now is actually either is released or it is about to be released. I don't know, actually. I never played it myself, so I don't really have that much knowledge of that game. But it's one of the more anticipated role-playing games in the, here and now. Tea. Cup of tea is all you need. So where was I? Yeah, I was still talking about the game. Wow, didn't see that coming. So the game followed. There was also like the first time I actually found out about the game was through a board game called Siege of the Citadel, where you followed a group of people called the Doom Troopers, which are the people in this game. Well, I'm sorry to say there's only 2 of them in this game. We have Mitch Hunter from the Capital Corporation, the poster boy for the Special Forces, more or less, and Max Steiner, who is from the Bauhaus Corporation. The Doom Troopers are supposed to be, in the Mutant Chronicles universe, there's a faction called the Cartel. Kind of not a very good choice of name, but I could describe it a little bit like the UN. If the UN had the greatest military force in the solar system, of course. What happens is that they recruit the best and the brightest soldiers from all the corporations, including, I think they actually recruit from the Brotherhood too. The soldiers then will resign their allegiance to their corporation. At least that's what they're supposed to do, but they still have some kind of allegiance, I believe, to their mother corporation. And they then become like this primary super fighting force again. They are the G.I. Joes of the future, basically. They fight against the Dark Legion all the time. There are few Doom Troopers that ever actually retire. Most of them just die. Because what they do is basically just suicide raids against the strongholds, Dark Legion strongholds, which are called citadels. So we would used to play that board game to the death, more or less. And I remember there was Mitch Hunter and Big Bob Watts for the Capital Corporation, and I feel that they could never really decide what ethnic group Big Bob actually came from, because sometimes he was a white dude, sometimes he was a black guy. So I'm not really sure 100%. I think canonically he ended up being a black guy in the end, or whatever is supposed to be called in the future. We can't use the PC term African American because it doesn't exist in this universe. So I'm on thin ice here, so I should shut up about that. So it turns out that he's that, and the white guy picture that they used was somebody called, I think, Kowalski in the end. And then, of course, from the Bauhaus Corporation, you had Max Steiner and Valerie DeVol, who was an étoile montante. Yeah, check it out. Do a Google Translate of that word. So, and let's see now, Valerie and Mitch Hunter are actually featured in the comic book. Believe it or not, they actually made a comic book. Don't watch the movie though, because it has nothing to do with the game or anything. It just borrows some names and that's it. So nothing to do with it at all. And there were other characters like that were very memorable because they had tie-ins through the game and everything. And there was like Sergeant Michael McBride of the Blood Parades from Imperial, Sean Gallagher, some guy named Murdoch, Edward Murdoch, I think it was. The Attila 3 unit from Cybertronic, and Agent Coral Beach from Cybertronic, and so forth and so on. There were so many characters, and they have not shown up yet in the role-playing game, but to go back to what I was talking about, they have claimed that they will make a power level or higher level adventure campaign where these characters actually show up. So I'm looking forward to that. And now I've basically been rambling on and on for about like 20-25 minutes. I hope you guys aren't getting tired of me just babbling a lot. And here I'm fighting I don't know how to pronounce this in English, the Razid, which is also kind of like a demonic creature. It's basically stone, metal, and flesh melded together into this giant golem, reddish, purplish, golem-like creature, whose only imperative is to kill. What I always found interesting were actually the heretics and the Dark Legion technology, because when you read it in the second edition, due to the power creep and everything, the Dark Legion was so powerful that it was incredible that they hadn't won already. But so were some of the humans too, the different human factions. So because it started out like very basic, and then you got one splat book with okay information, and then the next splat book came and you realize that wow, they kick ass compared to the previous book, and it continued and continued and continued. There was always a lack of balance in the game, and I feel relatively that they took care of it now. Let's see now. Let's head to Nero, the 10th planet in the system, which is the home. I haven't read the book yet on the Dark Soul or the Dark Legion in the 3rd edition collection that I own. So I have to do that. And here you also have the password if you just want to go straight to that level. So it's time to seek out Algoroth and defeat him. So we're doing what Duran did back in, well, whichever time period it was, because I can't remember. I think it was like because they have a different calendar. The calendar is before is the old calendar, and then you have the Dark Legion calendar, and you have the Cardinal or Brotherhood calendar, which is used now. I can't remember. I think it's somewhere starts in game terms. It starts at 1279, or was it 83 now? This is something I can never remember. And I think that the Venusian Crusade ended like 30 years after the first Cardinal. Well, after the Cardinal, that's the counting that they do. So after the first Cardinal was crowned Cardinal or something like that. And what fascinated me with the Dark Legion and the Heretics was that it wasn't just that they could receive dark gifts like magic tricks or anything like that. It wasn't just that. They could get like bionic implants or necro-technological implants or something like that. And if they were good little heretics, they could actually be given the chance to metamorphose into a true creature of the Dark Legion. Basically, it's like in Warhammer, where followers of Chaos being turned into demon princes, because you could be turned into a Nephilite, which is more or less a demon prince in that game, more or less, I guess. You could be turned into a Techron, you could be turned into a Praetorian Stalker. And that was really cool, even though that meant that your character was no longer playable. It became an NPC. You could be turned into a Centurion, which are the guys here who do somersaults and carry big swords. Or a Necromutant, which are the guys lobbing grenades at me all the time here. But the farthest down on the rung are the Undead Legionnaires. They are just zombies. You shouldn't care about them at all, because they lose their soul and brains when they... What happens is that the Legion goes out onto the battlefield and picks up any corpses left on the battlefield. And from them they imbue them with some dark soul magic and twist their souls to become this unafraid zombie army that just walks around and shoots everything in their sight. And I was thinking about it, which I had in my games in the early days. Now they have added kind of some of that, because considering that you're meeting like zombies, undead creatures, demonic creatures, alien creatures from other planets and dimensions, that will give anyone mental scarring and shocks. And that's something that was lacking in the original game. It was about action. You know, action heroes, they don't stop and think about like, what the hell am I doing? And it's like, I'm doing this for the good of humanity and all that fun stuff that they do in the movies. But I added that, a little bit like Call of Cthulhu, that there was some sanity, and now they have dread. So characters can actually be to mental stress, which I feel is entirely correct. That's what it should be. And it can only be healed. Mental stress can only, and dread and all that, will lower your chances of succeeding, and it will demand that you do psychotherapy to actually heal those mental wounds that you suffer due to all the horrors that you witness. So that's well done on them. Well done, Modiphius. Currently, I'm reading the main campaign they made for the role-playing game. I've just finished, I think it's called Slaktargatan, and started the Fall of von Holle, which is like the big bad heretic. No, I finished that one and just started the story, the Luna Blues storyline, which is like the third adventure in a long-running campaign, and I'm really psyched about it. And I wish I actually had a game group that would like to play it. But someday, I tend to do a little bit of a schizophrenic thing sometimes when I like an adventure, which is I create my own characters on paper and then I run like a mental scenario. Which more or less ends with being kind of like playing chess with yourself. It's not the same, but still, it's a way for me to live through the games that I cannot play or don't have the possibility to play with other people. On another note, just going away from this, I just remembered I was going to say that this about probably like 25 minutes ago is that I recently started a new job, which is great. Yay, I'm happy about that, even though I might not sound that excited right now, but I am happy that I have a new job. But it also means that I'm a little bit out of sync with my recordings, and I'll have to I won't be able to upload anything for a few days now. I'll be probably uploading either Thursday night or on Good Friday, the earliest right now, because I don't have the time to record. I go to work and I come back home, and right now I'm not used to working, which means that I'm too tired to actually do this. And I'm doing this right after work today, which means I'm really tired, and I probably sound really tired. I'm not that excited while talking. So I'll have to wait when I'm a little bit more rested and then do some recordings for you guys. Also, while we're at it, I'm interested to know if there's any other games that you guys would like me to play, because I've gotten asked to play an old game called Chaos Gate, and I'm looking forward right now to more Warhammer games. Ah, look at that. We're meeting Algoroth. And he was a bitch to finish. Really. Once I had his pattern down, it wasn't too hard though, but it took time, and I was sweaty. I got so sweaty while doing this. Yeah, so any suggestions of games you'd like me to play, let me know. Preferably not too long playthroughs. I'm trying to do compilations now, so the games won't take forever to finish or have playthroughs of 50 plus episodes. I mean, some people like it, some don't. It depends. It's from between like person to person, personal preferences and everything. And as I said, right now I'm actually anticipating some Warhammer games. There's the Warhammer 40k Gladius, which seems to be it looks a little bit like Civilization. And there's also one coming that is called Mechanicum or Mechanicus, and I'm hoping that it's not going to be one of those turn-based games, because I'm a little bit tired of it since I played Space Wolf, and I'm going to finish that someday. But it takes a lot of time and it annoys the hell out of me, so I'll probably do more of a compilation style of that game. So there will be more content. I've stopped Eisenhorn because even though it's interesting with the storyline, playing an Inquisitor and everything, it's so boring and so finicky. It's really getting on my nerve. But I'm really looking forward to Inquisitor, though. That game seems to be really cool. I think it's like a third-person isometric game, which looks very promising at least, but I'm not doing any pre-purchasing on that one. I did that mistake with both Eternal Crusade and with Deathwing, so I'm not doing that again. So here we are, we're fighting against Algoroth, personification of like corruption of technology and weapon and war. And he's not an easy guy to kill, because you have to figure out first of all where to hit him. And I noticed that you need to hit him in the head because you see some blood splatter. You don't get any prompts on like this is where you hit him. There's no glowing spots where you can shoot to kill him instantly or anything like that. So I had to figure it out, and I didn't know how many hits he had because he loses his helmet first, and then you have to shoot him some more. So I actually had to like check playthroughs and everything just to be able to find out what the hell I was supposed to do. It was the same with Semi. The Racide, he was not too hard though. That was kind of easy to figure out what to do. But this guy, oh, he was taking forever. He does have an easy pattern to remember, but you get tired, you get a little bit unfocused because you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you shoot him in the head and you're not sure that you're actually doing anything. So that's what it came down to. And here he is, he's using his whatever. Actually, Dark Legion technology and weapon have really funny names, like, well, funny. They are so weird. Like the Kratach, or the... I remember Kratach because it's like the main SMG or machine gun they use. And then there's the Vazd, or Vazd. There's a lot of those, like, you're trying to figure out how to freaking pronounce stuff. It's the same, there were like monsters from that early era where they had really weird names. What was it? It was like one... There was like, you couldn't figure out how to pronounce it because it was like a lot of Z's and C's and... Oh, hard to say. And I'm dying over and over again here. I think I'm down to like my last life. But I got his helmet off, so it was like, let's go. And there you go. He lost his head and he's spurting green blood from his spine somehow. I don't know. And then he just goes to Explodify. And mind you guys, the freaking strongest, like the Emperor style strength psychic creature actually once perished, made him perish 1,000 years ago. And now we did it without anything special. And there we go, it's victory! And I guess that's Max Steiner with a little crown on his head. And there you go, that's so like Brotherhood, Mystics or something. It's so pixely I can't even tell what it is. It might be Mystics or it might be Inquisitors. I guess it's supposed to be Inquisitors. And then you have the cartel emblem there in the background. So we did it, we killed Algoroth. And it's time for the credits. So guys, if you're still around, I want to thank you for being so tenacious to watch the entire 40 plus, about 40 minutes long clip of me just playing an old game from 94 or 95, I think 95, and listening to me just ramble on about everything and nothing. But that's it, I'm going to be uploading soon again, so thank you guys so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, do leave a like and a comment. But for now, I'm going to sign off, I'll see you guys in the next playthrough.